says, and this is something that we've had. Zach basically says, let me find that tweet. He tweeted this, and I want us to pick on it. Zach Love is tweeted. It says, when this AFCON is over, the Premier League should call up each of the tournament's referees and have them give the Premier League referees a seminar on how to use VAR without taking up 15 minutes to come to a decision and making yourself into the main characters. This is Zach Lowe, former BBC reporter, and basically saying something that a lot of people have pointed out at this AFCON. The officiating. It's been top notch. And Mamadou Haidara and his team, who is the CAF head of referees from Mali, they've done a brilliant job. Actually, listen, the officiating at this tournament and this call, CAF should cash out. The Premier League should be calling it Howard Webb, and his people should definitely. This is not out of place because the referee in the Premier League is being in absolute shambles, especially when it comes to the use of VAR. The CAF or AFCON referees have shown that it's not that complicated.
No, it's not. And you see, people are making these calls not because it is sexy at this point to say African referees are doing well. But for a long time, the incompetence of the referees in Europe has created this illusion that there is something wrong with VAR, which for me was unacceptable. What we have seen at this tournament is the excellent application of the technology in a manner that does not distort the pace of the game, in a manner that does not undermine the authority of the referee, in a manner that ultimately upholds the spirit in which the game is played. And so when we have seen the VAR being deployed in the Premier League, in La Liga, in the UEFA Champions League, people have had reason to question, because sometimes even the VAR interpretation of the regulations is so clumsy that it leaves people questioning whether or not the rules have changed. And I'll give you an example. Often when handballs are given, coaches and players question whether or not the handball is changed. And one of the popular refrains these days is, we don't even know what the handball rule means anymore. But you don't see that at this AFCON. We haven't seen that at this AFCON. There is clarity over what the rule book is. There is clarity over the respective context under which the rules have to be applied. Look, one of the things that I was thinking about this morning was that I haven't heard any pundits or journalists attempt to explain the spirit and letter of the law again at this AFCON.
Because the referees are applying it to the letter.
There's no ambiguity.
So there's no need for Atsu to come and explain what the handball rule means.
No, there's no ambiguity. So they are interpreting the rules correctly. They are using discretion where necessary in a manner that is unquestionable, right? And also consistent with the needs of the game as at that point.
Right.
So that is on the side of the referee getting the right calls. And then in terms of the VAR referees, they are not afraid to call a referee and say, you need to look at this, right? And when they do this in record time. Yesterday we were discussing how in the South Africa-Nigeria game, they reviewed 4 different instances in one action shot.
Yeah.
So the red card, whether or not the defender was the last man, whether or not the contact was a foul, whether or not the Nigerian attacker was offside, and whether or not the foul happened inside or outside the box.
Yeah.
And they got it spot on.
Every single one of them.
It was timely, right? Even before that incident, there was the Nigeria's supposed second goal, and then so you are beginning to see clarity in terms of what the rule is, the interpretation of that, communication to the players who now are beginning to show more faith in the referee's appreciation of what the regulations are. And like I said before, one of the beautiful things for me is that unlike in the Premier League where referees with 25 to 30 years of experience like Mike Dean are fumbling in the VAR room, young referees like Daniel Lai, our own, is sitting in the VAR room as the head of VAR for one match, and he's getting the decision spot on back to back to back to back. They are demystifying everything that European football suggested to be it. And look,
what does it come down to? Is it competence or is it protection of egos?
No, it comes down to competence. And I'll give you an example. to answer the question of egos, right?
Yes.
The Tottenham Hotspur, was it Tottenham Hotspur Liverpool match?
Yeah, Luis Diaz's goal. That
Yes.
was the offside.
Oh, the
thing.
big mess this season.
Anthony Taylor. And then the subsequent admission from Mike Dean that he felt reluctant to correct the referee. I made suggestions that it was because they are close buddies and all of that. That kind of ego, that kind of situation where camaraderie becomes an encumbrance. And because you feel, Fence be my guy. No, but that's what it is. So, Fence be my guy. So, even when he makes a mistake, I cannot correct him. It no longer exists because if you look at the referees that CAF is the pool Fence behavior. So,
I see when camaraderie becomes an encumbrance.
Yes. What is this? What is this? So wait. You couldn't put it any other way.
that's the first thing that came into my head.
When friendship becomes a hindrance.
Yes.
And one no.
When you choose friendship over, being objectivity.
Basically,
I don't know whether these words are part of the first 100 common words.
basically,
Charlie,
familiarity
what
breeds.
kind of GRE English is this?
Basically, familiarity breeds contempt.
Thank you. Now we understand.
And we haven't seen that at this AFCON because, bro, CAF has learned from its own mistakes. So when we've seen the referees appointed for the CAF Champions League and Confederation Cup, recently African Football League in the past, it's been from one block. So hard to play AS Massa, and the referees are not
from Algeria,
coming from Congo. All of them are coming from Congo.
It is easy for them to be compromised, but CAF has thought about that and said, this time around, we're going to pick referees from all over the place, right? And look, when it comes to football, the language does not matter so much as the language of competence. That is the language that the referees have been speaking. So they understand the game, the rules. They know how they apply and under what circumstance they are to apply these regulations. So look, CAF did not stumble onto this success by accident. This success is not accidental. They have shifted from the paradigm. They have changed the way they were picking the referees, and perhaps have taken these guys through every single training that is necessary. Because look, you could have isolated incidents of good officiating, right, or good VAR interventions. But when every single match, and I don't know, Cicho, help me. Yesterday you referenced the consistency in the VAR interventions.
Yeah. I think the penalty Egypt had against Mozambique is a carbon copy of what Nigeria in the group stage got against Cote d'Ivoire, where the striker gets the first defender and attempt to kick the ball, kicks the player. When you put that side by side, it's almost like a replay.
And it happened the day within
48 hours. This happened today. The next day, that
how many times?
And then the conversation, it was, in fact, when the second incident happened, anyone that watched the first one would have said,
called back.
If that was a pen.
If that was a penalty.
And I remember, in fact, on that day, it was your man Amokachi who was in co-coms.
Yes.
And he said that I saw that one against Egypt, and if that one was a pen against Egypt, this one is definitely a pen. It's a penalty. It's a penalty. That's
and surely it was a penalty.
So it's the consistency in application of the rules and the laws that is absolutely busting it at the AFCON.
How many times in Europe have we not had reason to question why the rules are applied differently to scenarios that look similar?
Yeah, very interesting.